Well, let's get more on last night and speak to our football correspondent, Rob Dorsett, who was in Tirana for us. Rob, I think the danger is that everyone sort of plays a bit amateur psychologist with this, and when we don't entirely know what happens in the aftermath and with Jude Bellingham going off, what have you seen from the pictures you've looked at and everything you've heard from last night?
Well, what I saw was different to what the TV pictures showed. And so I think that's why it's important we put the record straight a little bit here. Jude Bellingham sprayed a brilliant 40-yard pass out to Marcus Rashford, which isn't in our highlights reel, until just before Rashford put an equally sumptuous cross in onto Harry Kane's head, and he scored to make it 2-0. Bellingham then comes up and celebrates with Rashford, high-fives him for the cross, and goes and celebrates with Harry Kane and the rest of the England team. And he literally turns around at that moment to see Morgan Rogers standing on the sideline. And his number's up, and Jude Bellingham is being substituted. He throws his arms up in the air, and for me, this is a subjective opinion, but it looked more like frustration rather than dissent, is the way I would describe it. He trotted off the pitch, shook hands with Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel smacked him on the backside in a friendly show of support and thanks, and off he went to sit on the bench. And that's been blown up into this huge situation, and I understand why. Because Thomas Tuchel has made an awful lot of stock this week and in recent weeks about the importance of team, how important substitutes are going to be at the World Cup, where England might be playing in 40-degree heat. No player can expect to play every single minute. It has to be a squad game. He will use all of his substitutes in every match and try and manage players' minutes. He's talking to England's, the FA's medical teams about how to best prepare the players for playing in that heat. And so when he's saying all that publicly to us in the media and the England fans, to see arguably England's best player, certainly highest profile player, showing some displeasure at being substituted, doesn't play into the team ethic, does it, and the message that he's trying to get across there. So that's the way I read it. As I say, definitely more frustration than dissent, but as you'd expect, with the profile that Jude Bellingham is, it's gone viral. Everybody's talking about it. Is he a non-team player? Is it all about brand Bellingham rather than Team England? But within the camp, I don't think it's a huge issue. Tuchel wasn't happy about it. You just heard him speaking there. But I don't think he wants to blow it out of all proportion.
The word, Tim, that Rob just used there, profile, is significant to me in the sense that you'd have probably been in England squads with Paul Gascoigne, who had every move he made analysed to the nth degree. Then it was David Beckham. Then it was Wayne Rooney. And it feels like Bellingham is the latest where everything he does we have to talk about for 3 hours after he's done it.
Yeah, we do, which is strange, really. We know he's a wonderful player. I mean, he's got moments. He's got world-class moments. I'm not sure he's a world-class player. I think he's got a way to go before he's that. I think he has to play a lot longer, more consistent with his overall performances. Harry Kane should be that superstar, but we never talk about negative vibes about Harry Kane, ever, do we? We never, ever do. You know, he's a model professional. He's a complete team man. He's exactly what Thomas Tuchel wants. The reason I say
not every player has to act the same, do they?
Of course, you can be different. I think if I was just a fan looking in and I hadn't managed before, and this image still haunts me, and people will remember it. Sarri at Wembley with Kepa. Is it Kepa?
Yeah.
He refused to come off that game. I remember watching that on TV and going behind my sofa and giving it, "Come off the pitch, please, mate." I was embarrassed for the kid. You cannot show any... Rob talks about it there, it's frustration more than dissent. Frustration is dissent. Frustration is dissent. In the public's eye, when you're looking at it, all they're looking is the reaction of Jude Bellingham coming off that pitch. And his reaction last night allows people now to be talking about it and debating it. Yes, he's a good player. Yes, he turns up on a big occasion. He's done that for England. He plays for one of the biggest clubs in the world. Would he be in my squad? 100% he'd be in my squad. Is that going to be good enough for Jude Bellingham? No. He wants to play. He wants to play every single minute. He wants to decide when he comes off the pitch and when he stays on the pitch. Thomas Tuchel will not have that. He's the boss, and I love this about Thomas Tuchel. He makes the decisions. No matter who you are, I'm going to make the calls. We know how strong we are in the number 10 position. We've got a lot of options, a lot of guys who can come on fresh and change things up. Morgan Rogers has done nothing wrong in that position. It's his shirt at the moment. I know we've got another get-together in March. That's going to be crucial to who actually starts the tournament for England. But we're talking about this, and I don't think it was a lot. I really don't. I don't think it was a massive
And that's the point that I was going to make. It was interesting, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, who worked with Gareth Southgate in the last coaching group, he said recently, this is the problem with the English. You're allowed to be good, but you're not allowed to have self-belief. Self-belief is sometimes taken as being arrogant. Are we allowed to say I'm the best since sliced bread? Are we allowed to say that? No. And there must have been a time in your career where your number came up and you thought, but by the time he gets to the edge of the pitch, he's fine. And
yeah.
You wouldn't want players to be like, oh, well, I've been sub for England, off I go. There must be a
no, but
it's not like he's
you can be disappointed.
Ignored the manager on his way off, is it?
Of course not. But no one else, we're not ever talking about anyone else do that. We've never seen anyone else throw their arms up and dissent and say no. It seems like a trend at the moment. Vinny Jr. has done it, and his teammate, he's watched him with Xabi Alonso. That was disgraceful what the boy done there. You feel like you're bigger than the manager, and certainly you're trying to be bigger than the club. Now, Jude Bellingham is no bigger than, he's not certainly bigger than any player in that group. It's about the collective, and he won't be bigger than any England player or the England shirt, ever. So do what you're told. If you're ready to come off the pitch, yes, you're going to be frustrated, but don't show any public emotion. A show of dissent, and that was what it was. It was minor, in my opinion. I think we are making a lot of it. But just come off the pitch, because he's not a stupid boy. He knows people are going to be talking about it, and that's exactly what we're doing this morning.
Rob, 2 points to pick up on there back in Tirana. One would be, do you think that this whole thing, Thomas Tuchel almost accidentally has made a big issue of this because he paraphrased what his mum had said about Jude Bellingham and then has since accepted that it was a lost in translation, the word that he chose to use. But secondly, the point that Tim just made, that in an 8-game World Cup, hoping that England would get to a final, that none of those attacking players are going to play 8 sets of 90 minutes. So he can't do this every time he's taken off the field.
100%. I agree with Tim 100% there, and he's absolutely right. Look, this is going to be a World Cup like it was in Qatar. But in Qatar, with those sorts of temperatures, England played in air-conditioned stadiums, so it wasn't a particular problem, the heat. In the North America, there are 3 stadiums that are fully enclosed and have air conditioning, by my understanding. So it's going to be different. The only way England can get late into the tournament is by using the bench. Thomas Tuchel has talked about making substitutions at half-time because you can do that. You'll get 3 windows to make 5 substitutions. So if he does it at half-time, that doesn't count as one of your windows. They're already planning this. There's a big plan in place which Jude Bellingham isn't aware of. So I totally understand it from Thomas Tuchel's point of view. But you cannot escape the fact that a 22-year-old young man was called by the England head coach repulsive back in June. He said, Thomas Tuchel, in a radio interview with TalkSport, he said, my mother sometimes finds Jude Bellingham's behaviour on the pitch repulsive. Now, there will be some people who say, well, Bellingham proved that by doing it again last night. I think you're right, it wasn't anything like that. But that's the background to this. And so that's why we're analysing the relationship between Bellingham and Thomas Tuchel as closely as we are. Because this is something that the head coach created. This is a situation he created. He didn't have to use those words. And yes, he apologised for it and said that it wasn't a word he meant to use. He's a brilliant orator in English. He's very charismatic. I'm not sure he can hide behind the lost in translation bit, but he created that. And then he accentuated that situation by not selecting Jude Bellingham last month in October when he was back playing for Real Madrid and wanted to be part of the England squad. It felt like the England head coach was punishing Jude Bellingham after using a pretty nasty word about him. We don't know how that's impacted Jude Bellingham because he doesn't do any media, and that's an incredible frustration for us. And I know it winds up some of his England teammates as well, that they have to do media duties and he doesn't. But that's the context of what happened last night. And the other thing I'd point out, and I'd like Tim's thoughts on this, is he just scored a goal. He was literally celebrating being a key part of England scoring a second goal, which looked like it sealed the win and that perfect record of 8 wins out of 8 in qualifying. And he turned round mid-celebration and saw that he was coming off the pitch. So I think it was an emotive reaction to that. If he'd been substituted 5 minutes later, I don't think you'd have seen the same reaction from Jude Bellingham. But I also totally understand that Thomas Tuchel will look at that and go, look, come on, do me a favour. I'm trying to make a collective here. I'm trying to get a team ethos here, and you're ruining it.
The other point as well, Rob, would be the sensibility that he had been booked. And we know that red cards roll on to the World Cup. So even more common sense from Thomas Tuchel to think, well, it only takes one moment where he catches someone at a fraction late, and then we're missing him for the first group game potentially. That is also something you would take into consideration last night.
Absolutely. Look, I don't think Thomas Tuchel did anything wrong, but the circumstances conspired to make it a little bit tricky for Jude Bellingham. I think Team Bellingham will be having a chat with him today and say, well, you've got to stop doing this. You know, you've got this image, whether you like it or not. I think it's been created falsely by the media in some areas and certainly on social media that he's a bit bolshy, he's not a team player, he doesn't get on with some of his England teammates. That's not the case. He's not a loner. He gets on with Morgan Rogers, the man he's competing with for the number 10 shirt right now, incredibly well. He's very close to Trent Alexander-Arnold, gets on with Jordan Henderson very well. I don't think he's close to Harry Kane, but there's a mutual respect there. And interestingly, it was Harry Kane who came up to Jude Bellingham as he was being substituted and put his arm around him and said, well played, son, off you go. Harry Kane's role there, I think, was absolutely vital in calming Bellingham down and sending him on his way. And one other thing I would say is, Tim, you're 100% right to say that it should be Harry Kane who gets all the attention. 28 goals for club and country this season in 23 matches. That is unbelievable. He went past Pele last night in terms of the number of international goals he's scored. And here we are talking about Jude Bellingham. Yeah. That is bizarre, but it's the reality. And I'll just give you one little anecdote. Last night, as the England team players were getting on the coach to head back to Tirana Airport and fly home, Jude Bellingham was absolutely mobbed by Albanian fans, by Albanian security guards, by Albanian journalists who put down their TV cameras and microphones to go and have a selfie with Jude Bellingham. Harry Kane doesn't get half of that attention. That's not something Jude Bellingham has asked for. That's the reality of his profile in world football. And you know what? He signed every autograph. He posed for every selfie. He was the consummate gentleman and professional before he got on board that coach. So it's something we don't like in football, that Harry Kane doesn't get the credit he deserves and Bellingham gets more attention than he needs. But that's the reality of celebrity life, being a footballing icon, isn't it?
Why do you think he gets that attention?
I don't know. Why do you think he gets that attention? I think that's a really good question. Do you think he courts it then?
Well, no, I don't think he courts it. I think he gets that attention because he gets that attention because he's a personality. He is different. He's not a robot. I quite like that about him. I like players who've got a personality, something a little bit different in them, a little bit of a devil in their eye. I like that. I don't like it when you've got a manager. Listen, I'm not the manager of England. If I was a manager of England, I might be embracing this guy. But Thomas Tuchel has come out quite publicly and said it's about the team. It's not about any individual.
So that's a question to you then, Tim, about managing personalities and the balance. And there was a great documentary about the Chicago Bulls that came out a couple of years ago. Yeah. And Phil Jackson basically said, look, Dennis Rodman, we'd treat him differently. If he wanted to go off to Vegas for a couple of days, good luck to him. You were at Villa with someone like Jack Grealish, who was your best player. Yeah. Did you think, OK, Jack, you go and do you? And has to be a fine line between letting people express themselves in different personalities and, as you said, the team comes first and we're all in it together.
The difference is with this, with club players, is the manager, Thomas Tuchel, and he said it, he was nearly in tears saying, like, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year after the game, because he's not going to see him. He misses it. You can tell he misses the day-to-day. He wants to be back in club management. He knows he's got a job to do in the summer, but he loves getting a family together and building a team, and it is all about the collective for him. He will make big decisions. Do you treat someone differently in club football? I think you do. I think it's because, but when you've got so many quality players, especially in Jude's position, I think you can have that luxury of just saying, it's my way or the highway. You don't do it my way, you will not play. And Thomas will understand, if he does not pick Jude Bellingham and he doesn't get the result, there'll be uproar. There'll be uproar. Everyone will be criticising the man for not picking one of our best players. Because, like Rob says, the whole world wants a piece of him. Everyone wants a piece of Jude Bellingham at the moment. And is it because of what he does on the pitch? Not necessarily. It's the whole package. The way he conducts himself. He has got a little bit of a spiteful streak in him. He has got the swagger. He is a good-looking boy. He's
You know how that
perfect.
feels, don't you, Tim? Just
Yeah,
getting so much
I can
focus
relate
that
to
you're
him,
looking
yeah.
for. Yeah. Just a final point, Rob.
Rob, the one thing I'd say is Tim's bang on there. It reminds me a lot of David Beckham. Of course, we all know what happened with David Beckham. He gets sent off for kicking out at Diego Simeone in 1998, and he's vilified. He's getting death threats, for goodness sake. His profile is in the gutter. And I remember that as a kid, and I remember thinking, how's he come back from that? How does he come back from that? He was vilified as a national disgrace. Yeah. And then, for the 2002 World Cup, he single-handedly dragged England there with that goal against Greece. Yeah. And he's suddenly the nation's baby. And it feels a little bit of the same with Jude Bellingham. There's people that love him, there's people that hate him. When he does something brilliant, like scoring that overhead kick that keeps England in the Euros last summer, which we haven't mentioned yet, an overhead kick in injury time against Slovakia in the last 16 of the Euros to keep England in it, and they go all the way to the final. Without Jude Bellingham, they're out in the last 16 stage, and it's a very different conversation. He has that ability. That was his David Beckham Greece free kick moment, it felt like to me. And now he hasn't done anything as bad, I suppose, as Beckham getting sent off for kicking Simeone. But he does some little things that people don't like, that don't make him look particularly pleasing or attractive. And that's giving ammunition to a camp who want to attack him. Yeah. Hero, villain. He's a bit of both, and he's loved for it.